This is the story of the disappearance of Flight MH370 and the ongoing search, a mystery that has haunted the world for over a decade. It began on the night of March 7, 2014, when Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, a Boeing 777 carrying 239 souls, vanished from radar without a single distress call. The plane had taken off from Kuala Lumpur, bound for Beijing, a routine route, a routine night, until it wasn't. In those final moments before contact was lost, the skies were calm, the stars scattered across the heavens like shards of glass. Pilots spoke of routine checks, passengers laughed quietly in the cabin, unaware that the very air around them was about to swallow them whole. The initial reports were frantic, a mixture of confusion and hope. Air traffic controllers, frantic and sweating, watched the blip disappear from the screens. First, they thought it was a technical glitch, but as minutes stretched into hours with no sign of the plane, hope began to fray. The world began to awaken to the terrifying realization. Something had gone terribly wrong, and yet, there was no crash site, no debris in the initial search areas, no screaming headlines beyond the static voices of desperate relatives pleading for answers. The aircraft, its passengers and its crew had simply vanished, leaving behind only whispers of speculation and an ocean vast enough to hide secrets forever. It wasn't just the disappearance that baffled investigators. It was the way the plane seemed to vanish, as if it had been erased from existence. Military radars briefly picked up an unidentified flight path turning sharply away from its intended course, diving southward over the Indian Ocean. Analysts pored over satellite data from Inmarsat, detecting faint handshakes, automated pings sent every hour that hinted at the plane's lonely drift far from where it was supposed to be. Each ping painted a chilling image of a plane traveling hundreds of miles into the emptiness, alone in the darkness, like a ghost fleeing from unseen pursuers. As the search stretched on, strange details began to emerge. Debris washed ashore months later, fragments from MH370, but they offered more questions than answers. How could the plane's massive body disappear in one of the busiest air corridors on Earth? Why were the flight data and cockpit voice recorders never recovered, despite exhaustive searches covering thousands of square kilometers of ocean floor? Some experts whispered about the impossible nature of the disappearance, suggesting that the plane had ended up in a place no human had yet discovered. A bottomless abyss, a hidden trench that swallowed entire vessels whole. The idea seemed fantastical, yet the absence of evidence made every explanation plausible. Journalists and conspiracy theorists alike thrived on the void left behind by the official narrative. Some claimed the plane had been hijacked, diverted for some unknown agenda. Others suggested mechanical failure so catastrophic that it left no trace. More fringe theories spoke of electromagnetic pulses, secret government experiments, or alien intervention, visions of the aircraft taken into the sky by hands invisible to mortal eyes. The truth, whatever it was, remained suspended in that cold, dark expanse. I had been following the story from the beginning, drawn not only to the mystery, but to the unsettling way it seemed to resonate with something primal in the human psyche. The fear of the unseen, the terror of being swallowed by an indifferent universe. One night, months after the disappearance, I found myself alone in my small apartment, scanning satellite images and reading reports that were meant to feel reassuring but instead unsettled me. There was a pattern, subtle and almost imperceptible, in the coordinates and debris findings, a strange symmetry, as if the plane's path had been deliberately concealed, masked by the very laws of nature we relied upon to find it. Then came the letters. At first, I thought I was imagining them. They appeared in my mailbox, handwritten, unsigned, and utterly devoid of origin. Inside each envelope was a single page, filled with cryptic symbols and coordinates that didn't correspond to any known mapping system. One line of text would read, "The last eye saw, the last heart fell. Follow the whispers beneath the waves." My rational mind screamed hoax, yet a deeper part of me, a part that understood the allure of hidden truths, couldn't ignore them. I followed the coordinates once, despite every rational instinct screaming against it. They led to a remote coastal area, a jagged stretch of rocks where the wind howled and the ocean pounded like a living beast. Standing there, staring out over the black expanse, I felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on me. Something about that place didn't feel entirely natural. The waves moved with a strange rhythm, too deliberate to be ordinary. In the foam of the surf, I thought I saw shapes, metallic and angular, vanishing before my eyes. Perhaps it was the reflection of moonlight, perhaps a trick of my imagination, but the sense of being watched, of standing on the edge of a hidden abyss, refused to leave. News reports had long since faded into occasional anniversaries, short retrospectives on television, superficial reflections on a tragedy that had grown distant for most. Yet the people who had truly looked at the disappearance, those who followed the minutiae of the investigation, who pored over satellite pings and flight logs, knew the horror lingered. And it wasn't just the uncertainty of what had happened, it was the knowledge that the world itself seemed to have conspired to erase the plane, to erase the evidence, to ensure that whatever had occurred remained beyond reach, a secret locked beneath waves and sediment. I contacted experts, retired pilots, oceanographers, anyone who might lend insight into the Enigma. Most were polite but evasive, their words carefully measured. They offered procedural explanations, currents, depth, technical failure. But in the quiet moments when the cameras and microphones were off, their expressions betrayed something different. A recognition that the MH370 disappearance was not just an aviation mystery, but something far stranger. Some even hinted at events that could not be documented, phenomena observed only by those who had been at the scene, only by those whose minds could tolerate glimpses of what the universe might hide. One night in a dimly lit office, a retired investigator leaned forward, his eyes catching the light like wet stones. "You know," he said quietly, "there are things in the ocean we'll never understand. Ships, planes. They vanish because they are drawn to something beneath, something ancient, something patient." His words chilled me more than any statistic, any map or satellite image. The thought of a force so indifferent to humanity, so vast and inscrutable, lurking beneath the waves, made the mystery of MH370 less about a single plane and more about the fragility of our understanding. The online communities were equally haunted, filled with armchair detectives piecing together fragments of evidence, postulating scenarios that ranged from the plausible to the nightmarish. Some swore the aircraft had been deliberately concealed in a location impossible to reach, a watery crypt beneath currents and pressure that would crush any attempt at recovery. Others reported strange anomalies, satellite images with indistinct shapes, sonar echoes that defied explanation, fragments of metal discovered far from known debris fields, as if the ocean itself were moving the plane like a chess piece across its vast board. I began to notice patterns in the disappearances connected to MH370. Unexplained plane incidents, lost ships, missing cargo. Each seemed insignificant in isolation, but in aggregate, a tapestry of strange phenomena unfolded. The coincidences piled on top of each other, and for the first time I considered the terrifying possibility that the disappearance wasn't accidental, wasn't random, but symptomatic of a larger, more insidious truth. Something about that region of the Indian Ocean, the latitude, the currents, the magnetic anomalies, was drawing objects into oblivion. It wasn't supernatural, I told myself. It had to be natural, and yet each explanation failed under scrutiny. Then came the dreams, at first subtle, almost laughable. Images of a plane gliding silently above a black sea, the passengers serene, unaware, watching lights flicker below. Over time, the dreams became more vivid, more insistent. I began to wake in the middle of the night, heart hammering with fragments of coordinates scribbled in my mind. The haunting sensation that the ocean was calling me, urging me to look, to follow, to witness. I tried to ignore it, tried to dismiss it as stress or obsession. But a part of me, perhaps the part that knew too much, knew that these dreams were not random. They were a warning, a lure, or perhaps the echo of something beyond human understanding. Then, one evening, I received a final letter, more elaborate than the others, the handwriting frantic and jagged. It contained no words, only a map with lines that twisted and intersected in impossible geometries, points marked by symbols I didn't recognize. Beneath it, a single sentence. The sky swallowed them. The sea remembers. Go before it forgets you too. I stared at it for hours, the room growing darker, shadows lengthening like claws. My instinct screamed that to follow it would be madness, and yet the compulsion was irresistible. Something had been left behind, a trace of the vanished, and it called to those who were willing to see. Even now, as I write this, I feel the weight of that call pressing against me. The mystery of MH370 is not just the story of a plane lost in the vast expanse of ocean. It is a tale of absence of erasure, of the terrifying notion that entire events can be hidden from the world. And in that absence, in that void, the mind strains to fill the space, to imagine horrors or truths that cannot be spoken aloud. There is a reason the world cannot find the plane. There is a reason that the ocean, so full of life and motion, has kept its secret for over a decade. The answer, if it exists, lies somewhere in the silent depths, in a place where light cannot reach, where time stretches and warps, where the missing continue to drift, unseen, unheard, untouched by human hands. The search continues, of course. Modern sonar, submersibles, satellite imaging, technologies far beyond what was available in 2014, have scoured vast areas of the Indian Ocean. Yet the plane remains elusive, a phantom in a watery grave. And with each failed attempt, the mystery deepens, becoming less about aviation, more about human vulnerability, our smallness in a universe indifferent to our presence. The world has moved on, yet the echoes of MH370 remain, reverberating through data points, through stories, through the occasional fragment of debris that surfaces to remind us that the event was real, that the people aboard were real, and that their disappearance defies comprehension. Some nights, I still dream of those final moments before MH370 vanished, of the calm skies shattered by something unseen, of passengers smiling in the glow of cabin lights that will never illuminate another night. And when I wake, I can almost hear the ocean whispering, urging the world to remember, to search, to acknowledge that some secrets, though buried in water and darkness, are far from silent. The second part of the story begins where the darkness of the ocean deepens, pulling us further into the enigma of MH370. Following the cryptic letters and maps, I found myself drawn to places I would have once dismissed as inconsequential. Remote islands, desolate coastlines, and abandoned ports became part of a puzzle I could neither fully see nor understand. Each location held fragments of the past, whispers of the missing, as if the world itself were trying to guide me toward some hidden truth. And yet, the closer I came to understanding, the more intangible the answers became, like shadows dissolving before my eyes. Months after the initial letters, the dream sequences intensified. I would wake drenched in sweat, hearing the faint hum of engines, the low murmur of voices carried over water. Sometimes I could see the plane, shrouded in mist, its lights flickering in the void of the ocean night. Passengers staring at me with faces half obscured by fear and disbelief. I could not move, could not speak, yet I felt a compulsion, a force tugging me toward an unseen shore. It was not hallucination. It was a memory, or perhaps a warning, a message from the depths themselves. The global search efforts, despite the advanced technology, only seemed to underscore the impossibility of locating the aircraft. Submersibles mapped the ocean floor in high resolution. Sonar sweeps scanned thousands of kilometers, and yet nothing conclusive emerged. It was as if the sea had deliberately hidden the plane, rearranged its wreckage into invisible patterns, or perhaps in some unfathomable way, carried it to another dimension of reality, one where human instruments could not penetrate. Scientists spoke in technical terms: underwater currents, sediment coverage, deep sea trenches. But there was a persistent unease among them, a silent acknowledgement that something about this disappearance transcended ordinary explanations. I began to notice other anomalies. Remote sensing data revealed subtle disturbances in the ocean's surface, unexplained ripples, strange thermal readings, electromagnetic fluctuations that had no logical source. These were fleeting, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakable to those trained to detect them. When I shared these findings with retired investigators and oceanographers, their eyes darkened with recognition, though they offered no concrete explanation. It was as if they were aware of something lurking, something ancient and patient, waiting beneath the waves for the unwary. One particularly chilling encounter occurred in a small port town along the west coast of Australia. A fisherman, older than time seemed to allow, approached me as I examined satellite imagery on a weathered laptop in the dim light of a seaside cafe. He spoke in cryptic phrases, almost like riddles. "The ocean does not forget. The sky took them, but the sea cradles them. Some nights, you can hear the hum of the engines beneath the waves calling the curious to join." His eyes were wet, reflective of something he had seen yet could not describe. I pressed him for details, but he only shook his head. "Some things are not for the living," he said. "They linger in the dark, in the places where light dies." Back in my apartment, I cross-referenced his story with historical data of missing flights and lost ships. Patterns emerged. Disappearances clustered in certain oceanic corridors, particularly in areas with complex currents and anomalous geomagnetic readings. While some of this could be coincidence, the repetition suggested something more sinister. It was as if the sea itself was a living entity, claiming objects and lives with a precision that defied human understanding. Each new fragment of information added layers of dread, weaving a tapestry of inevitability, as if MH370 had been destined to disappear from the very start. The public, meanwhile, had moved on. Conspiracy forums had long devolved into arguments and speculation, the fringe theories ballooning into absurdity. Then, I received a message from a former engineer involved in the flight's maintenance. He contacted me anonymously, claiming he had discovered irregularities in the aircraft's communication systems, odd signals that could not be explained by normal technical issues. It was as if someone or something was experimenting with the plane's path, he whispered. His tone was cautious, as if even speaking the words could invite danger. The last automated ping was different. It carried information the satellites weren't meant to see. He refused to elaborate further, citing fear for his safety. That night, I realized that MH370 was not only a mystery of disappearance, but perhaps a mystery of interference, manipulation from a source beyond conventional detection. The more I delved into this narrative, the more I encountered subtle distortions of reality. Oceanographic maps shifted inexplicably between updates, coordinates provided by official sources seemed to contradict one another, and satellite images occasionally revealed blurs or shapes too coherent to be random debris. Even the Inmarsat data, once thought conclusive, displayed anomalies when reanalyzed with specialized software. Every fact became suspect, every conclusion tentative. The deeper I dug, the more the world itself seemed to resist understanding. One night I awoke to the sensation of motion, subtle yet undeniable, as if my apartment itself were tilting, drifting on waves no one else could perceive. I stumbled to the window and looked out, half expecting to see the ocean encroach into the streets below. The sky above was clear, stars unbroken, but the air hummed with low-frequency vibrations. Then I saw it, a faint ghostly glow on the horizon, moving in patterns that mimicked the flight path of MH370. It vanished before I could focus, leaving only the pounding of my heart and the sense that the ocean, vast and patient, had acknowledged my presence. Around this time, I began to notice a series of disappearances tangentially connected to MH370. Researchers, investigators, and even casual observers who had delved too deeply into the mystery began vanishing under strange circumstances. Some were declared missing at sea, others disappeared from isolated locations without trace. The pattern was unsettling, suggesting that the enigma surrounding MH370 was guarded by forces that ensured certain truths would remain buried. My obsession grew alongside my fear, a delicate balance between curiosity and self-preservation. I became consumed by the idea that the plane itself was a nexus of forces we could not understand: physical, psychological, and perhaps even supernatural. In exploring this possibility, I encountered obscure studies of anomalous phenomena in oceanic trenches, where gravity and time appeared to warp subtly, creating illusions of movement and displacement. Some researchers speculated that these regions acted as traps, capturing objects and information in ways that defied physics. Could MH370 have entered such a zone, a space where normal rules no longer applied? The thought chilled me to my core. Eventually, I decided to follow one final set of coordinates that had appeared in the letters. They led to a remote section of the Indian Ocean, far from shipping lanes, beyond the reach of commercial satellites. Boarding a small vessel equipped with sonar and basic navigation, I ventured into the unknown, accompanied by a sense of dread that tightened with every passing hour. The ocean was unnaturally still, the horizon blurred by mist, the sun a pale disk struggling to pierce the fog. In that silence, the usual sounds of the sea, the cries of gulls, the slap of waves, were replaced by an oppressive quiet. Hours into the journey, the instruments began to behave strangely. Compass readings spun erratically, sonar pings returned shapes that seemed larger than any known vessel, and the temperature of the water fluctuated without reason. The sense of being watched intensified, a creeping awareness that the depths below held more than sediment and rock. And then I saw it, a shadow moving beneath the surface, massive and deliberate, keeping pace with the boat as if aware of its intruder. It vanished before I could focus, leaving only a lingering vibration in the hull, a resonance that I could feel in my bones. That night, anchored in the blackness, I experienced what I can only describe as a dream, or perhaps a vision. The plane appeared before me, intact, luminous beneath the waves, passengers visible yet frozen in a timeless moment. I could hear whispers, faint as breath, urging me to understand that the disappearance was not an accident, not a mistake, but a deliberate act of concealment, an intersection between human error and forces beyond comprehension. And then the vision ended, leaving only the endless dark, the hum of the ocean, and the chilling certainty that MH370 was out there, forever unreachable, a monument to mystery. The implications were staggering. MH370 was not merely a lost plane. It was a symbol, a reminder of the fragility of human understanding in the face of an indifferent universe. Every technological advance, every search mission, only confirmed the enormity of the unknown. And as I returned to shore, exhausted and haunted, I realized that some mysteries were meant to remain unsolved, not because the answers were unattainable, but because the truth itself might be too vast, too incomprehensible to ever exist fully within human knowledge. Yet even as I write these words, I know the story is not over. The ocean remembers, the skies remember, and the plane, in its ghostly flight path, continues to draw those willing to look too closely into the depths. The letters, the visions, the inexplicable phenomena, they all hint at a reality that brushes against our own, one that is waiting, patient, and utterly indifferent to human logic or morality. To witness it is to recognize our own smallness, to confront the fact that some questions are designed to have no answers, some disappearances are designed to leave only echoes. And so the search persists, not merely for debris or cockpit recorders, but for understanding, for the fragile hope that somewhere in the infinite dark, we might glimpse the truth behind the vanishing of MH370. And whether that truth is revelation or horror, it remains shrouded in mystery, as opaque as the ocean depths themselves, as elusive as the final pings that whispered across the Indian Ocean long ago. The final part of the story begins with the ocean, silent yet restless, a vast expanse that holds secrets older than human memory. After the vision beneath the waves, I knew that MH370 was no ordinary disappearance. It was a doorway into the unknown, a rift where reality bent and human understanding faltered. The strange letters, cryptic coordinates, and inexplicable phenomena had led me to this conclusion. The plane was caught in something beyond technology, beyond science, something ancient, patient, and indifferent, and I returned to the remote section of the Indian Ocean repeatedly, each voyage deeper into the unknown than the last. Satellites and sonar revealed little, but the anomalies persisted. Currents moved in impossible directions, echo patterns suggested enormous shapes beneath the surface, and the water itself seemed to pulse in time with a rhythm not dictated by tides. Some nights, standing at the bow of the small vessel, I could swear I saw faint lights beneath the waves, ghostly illuminations tracing the outline of the plane. The passengers appeared in fleeting visions, suspended in water as if time had no dominion over them, their faces calm, unreadable, almost ceremonial in their stillness. Local legends began to emerge as I spoke with fishermen and island inhabitants. Tales of sleeping oceans and hungry deep were dismissed by most outsiders as superstition, but their consistency was chilling. According to these stories, there were stretches of ocean that claimed ships, planes, and travelers who ventured too far. Some described strange, phosphorescent lights beneath the surface. Others spoke of the water itself forming illusions that lured sailors into oblivion. The stories were eerily similar to the patterns surrounding MH370, hinting at an intelligence or will embedded within the ocean itself. One night, anchored far from land, I experienced the most intense vision yet. A storm had gathered without warning, though the skies above were calm just minutes before. The vessel rocked as if caught in invisible waves, and then the ocean opened before me. Not physically, but perceptually. Beneath the surface, I saw corridors of water that stretched beyond comprehension, currents bending in ways that defied physics. The plane floated there, intact, passengers visible, their eyes reflecting an awareness that sent a shiver down my spine. It was not fear nor recognition, but something else, an understanding that the events had already played out, that reality itself had folded around them. I realized then that MH370's disappearance was not merely about a plane lost at sea. It was a glimpse into an intersection between human life and a vast, unknowable reality. The plane's path had been altered, its presence concealed not by people, but by forces indifferent to our comprehension. The letters, the visions, the warnings, they were breadcrumbs, guiding the few who dared look too closely to acknowledge what the majority could not face. This was not a mystery to be solved. It was a phenomenon to be witnessed, ephemeral and terrible. Days turned into weeks as I followed subtle signs across the Indian Ocean, strange sonar readings, brief glimpses of movement beneath the waves, even faint communications intercepted by amateur radio enthusiasts, all pointed to a singular pattern. The plane existed in a liminal state, somewhere between visibility and disappearance. Debris occasionally surfaced, fragmented and weathered, yet always partial, never revealing the full truth. It was as if the ocean selectively permitted glimpses, teasing with proof while withholding comprehension. The psychological toll was immense. Sleep became fragmented, haunted by visions of passengers staring through the veil of water, whispers brushing against my consciousness, faint echoes of distress and calm intermingled. Each night, the coordinates from the letters returned to me in dreams, insistent, a map leading to the heart of the unknown. Following them, I discovered hidden reefs and submerged ridges, regions largely ignored by scientific surveys. There, in the eerie silence, instruments behaved erratically, compasses spinning, sonar reflecting massive, undefined shapes. It was impossible to know whether the anomalies were natural or if the plane's presence influenced them, bending reality in its liminal state. One evening, a storm unlike any I had experienced rolled in suddenly, yet the sky remained a tranquil black, starless and foreboding. Waves towered, then fell into unnatural hollows, leaving the surface as flat and glassy as a mirror. It was in that moment, suspended between tempest and stillness, that I understood the ultimate truth. MH370 was a message, a monument to the limits of human perception. The plane and its passengers were not simply lost. They were ensnared in a reality that intersected with our own, but was governed by laws beyond comprehension. The ocean had become both vessel and vault, concealing and revealing in rhythms we were ill-equipped to interpret. I was alone on the deck, drenched by spray and wind, when the instruments went silent. The world seemed to pause. Then, without warning, the plane appeared, glowing faintly beneath the waves as though the water itself had become glass. I could see the cabin, the seats, the passengers, frozen yet alive in a tableau of silence. The engines whispered, an auditory hallucination or a projection of the unknown, and the faint glow pulsed in time with some rhythm older than humanity. It was not fear I felt, but awe. A recognition that the disappearance had unveiled a truth the world was not ready to face. The vision faded, leaving only the dark, restless sea. The storm dissipated as abruptly as it had arisen, leaving calm waters that belied the enormity of what had just occurred. I recorded everything, though words felt inadequate, language incapable of capturing the liminal, eerie reality I had witnessed. Later, I realized that no one would believe the story, that the world would demand evidence in conventional forms, oblivious to the subtle proof that reality had briefly revealed itself to me. MH370 existed in a place we could see but not touch, a location defined by perception rather than coordinates, a space where time and matter were negotiable, and where human intervention was meaningless. In the months that followed, the plane remained elusive. Reports of debris continued sporadically. Sonar readings hinted at shapes beneath the ocean floor, and occasionally amateur astronomers noted faint lights near the coordinates I had followed. Each clue was a breadcrumb, never leading to closure, always pointing to the fact that some mysteries were designed to endure, to haunt, and to remind humanity of its own limitations. Scholars and enthusiasts, desperate for answers, debated endlessly, unaware that the truth was never about finding the wreckage. It was about confronting the existence of something vast, indifferent, and impossibly patient. Even now I feel the pull of the ocean, a subtle hum in the bones, a faint vibration in the floorboards of my apartment. The letters have ceased, but the coordinates linger in my mind, insistent, a call that refuses to be silenced. MH370, its passengers, and the enigma of their disappearance are no longer simply a news story. They are a phenomenon, a persistent reminder of the unknown depths both in the ocean and within human comprehension. The world may never fully understand, may never map the full extent of what lies beneath, but the echoes remain, shaping perception, haunting thoughts, and challenging the human notion of finality. I have come to accept that MH370 is a ghost in the machine of the ocean, a liminal entity existing between what is known and what can never be known. The plane's disappearance is complete, yet ongoing, a paradox suspended in time and space, reminding humanity that some events do not resolve, that some truths are meant only to be glimpsed, and that the universe holds depths no amount of search, technology, or reason can conquer. As I conclude this account, the truth is undeniable yet unreachable. The disappearance of MH370 is a story without resolution, a mystery whose answer may never belong to us. The ocean keeps its secrets, the sky has swallowed its witnesses, and those who seek the full truth risk glimpsing more than they can endure. I have walked close to that edge, stared into the abyss, and returned changed. The plane remains, somewhere between existence and oblivion, a monument to the vast, indifferent power of the unknown, forever haunting the world and anyone who dares to follow its elusive trail. And so, the story of MH370 is not merely about a missing flight or lost passengers. It is about the fragility of human understanding, the enormity of the unknown, and the eerie truth that some disappearances are meant not to be solved, but to remind us of the vast, patient, and unknowable depths of our world. The ocean, the skies, and perhaps the universe itself hold memories and forces beyond comprehension, and the plane, forever luminous in the depths, remains a testament to that haunting, silent truth. Even as I finish this narrative, I know that the hum beneath the waves continues, that the coordinates etched in dreams and letters still pulse somewhere in the deep, and that the vanished passengers of MH370 are not truly gone. They exist in a liminal, ghostly state, reminding us that some mysteries are infinite and some truths are beyond reach. The story ends here, not with resolution, but with recognition. The disappearance of MH370 is an eternal enigma, a haunting reminder that the universe contains forces and depths beyond human comprehension, and that sometimes the unknown is not merely a question but a presence, silent, patient, and terrifying in its inevitability.